Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon and good morning, wherever you're from. Welcome to Dynasty Dumbies. As always, your home for the latest and greatest in college football news and action. We're your hosts, Hunter and Tony, and we're sitting at day 2 of 49 straight days of football for the next couple weeks here, which is always a great feeling. As usual, we're going to start off with a little bit of a rankings reminder. If you want to see the full breakdown of what we did after this past week, go check out this week's review and recap episode, and let us know what you think about the rankings. But Tony, let's see what we got so far.
Yep, so this is me and Hunter's personal rankings here. Just again, going to quickly remind about our criteria, like we always do, about head-to-head results are always taken into consideration. The week-by-week results also are taken heavy into consideration, not weighing one more than the other. No hypotheticals ever. We will shun you and hate you forever if you do. Team vibes and whatnot, and then obviously our collective group rankings are done in an AP style. So just quickly, just to go over mine real quick, again, I had Miami move up to the 1 spot. I thought their win was good enough to get them back into that consideration, and they are the only team to have 3 ranked wins this season so far. So got to give them somewhat of a shout out for that. So I think they deserve it. Other than that, top 5 doesn't change too much. 6 through 10, you could probably say 6 through 11 as well is pretty solid. Everyone's just kind of moving up. And then, of course, I had UNLV, Navy being undefeated still jump up in there. And then Michigan jump back up in there. And then Cincy also joined, along with me, bringing in ODU because I think they deserve that recognition.
And again, I'm going to give you props for ODU. Sun Belt supremacy for sure. Going to have an interesting few weeks for the Sun Belt, but ODU they're only lost by 13 to Indiana at Indiana. So they've played some great football. Taking a look at my rankings here, my top 5 remains the same. Miami still holding down that number 1 spot. And then I had Texas A&M and UVA jumping up into the top 10 along with BYU. I have Bama jumping up after their big win as well against Vanderbilt. And while, on the other hand, I kept Vanderbilt, Iowa State, and Louisville inside my top 25 after their losses this past week, I do have Michigan, Nebraska, and, of course, Cincinnati joining. If you're curious why I have Michigan, Nebraska, I personally really care about the head-to-head. All of these teams are sitting at 1 loss. Nebraska beat Cincy. Michigan beat Nebraska. I have to rank Cincy, so in my mind, those teams must be deserving of a top 25 spot. Then I also had Navy, the last undefeated team, finally joining my rankings. All 15 are accounted for. So some really interesting stuff from last week's slate of games where the top 5 really held strong, but the rest of the field saw quite a bit of movement from Tony and I.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of movement in a lot of these upcoming weeks with a bunch of these teams playing each other and their schedules getting a lot harder. And, we're getting really into the thick of things of conference play, which, we'll jump into a little later here. But we're just going to go over our collective rankings with AP as well. Always controversy in the AP about who's where, who gets what. At least they had the balls to get rid of Texas and Penn State finally, even though they are still getting a considerable amount of votes. So they are very much... It's absolutely insane, and they could very much get 1 win against a decent team, like especially Texas playing Oklahoma this week, and they could absolutely jump right back in, which to me, absolutely absurd. They don't deserve it, but nonetheless, it's like that. They have two group of 5 jump into the top 25, which is not seen very often in Memphis and USF. So USF, again, we'll go over it later. Got a good game coming up tomorrow when this episode will come out. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Definitely going to be some really interesting action this week within the top 25. But as Tony mentioned, some similar shifts across this one. Iowa State does fall out despite being ranked by every one of us. They had 4 votes at 24 and 1 at 25, but it wasn't enough points to crack back, or I should say remain within the top 25. And then Cincy obviously joining after their win. And then UNLV and North Texas also joining. I believe at this point, every undefeated team is represented in the group poll as well. So honestly, I'm liking what the voters are doing from Dynasty Dummies. I think there are some incredibly smart people putting these things together compared to the AP poll here.
Yeah, the name's a little misleading sometimes. We're smarter than the average dummy. We think, I would say we're quote unquote experts on the situation, but nonetheless, we're starting to get a better collective of what we like to see and stuff. And these results in these upcoming weeks could drastically change everything. But just to kick it off, we're gonna go over the weekday game that concluded tonight. Of course, was my Green Wave. Tulane facing ECU at home, where they survive, and survive doesn't even say it enough. They eke it out against them 26-19. That game was tight, close-knit for majority, at least in the second half. First half, Tulane dominated. I mean, it wasn't close. The defense was shutting them down. They had at one point, or ECU had at one point, -4 total yards. They could not get anything going on offense. But a big issue I saw on the Tulane side was the penalties galore. The refs had their hands on those flags at all times when Tulane had the ball, and it showed. And some of them were absolutely correctly called. I cannot argue against it, but then some of them on both sides of the ball was just like, what are we doing here? They had 11 accepted penalties for 96 yards. And I know for a fact that one of them did take away a touchdown in that first half. But it was just a bad sign there. And that has been kind of the issue all season with Tulane on some of this stuff, where they have these good plays. I know one of them was a 3rd and 15 deep in our own territory that was passed for a first down, and it gets called back for a hold. That's been the sign of it almost all season so far, where these bigger players are getting taken back for these stupid preventable penalties. So I know John Summerall is definitely not happy at that, but they come out with the win nonetheless. So it's a good way to kind of get it off on a short week there. Even though you're coming off the bye, still a short week, it kind of can throw off a few things. But nonetheless, moved to 5-1, undefeated in the conference still, and still very much in the race for the American.
I was texting you during this game, and I stopped watching a little bit at half and started watching some of the other games. And I checked back in on the score right at the end of the third quarter, and it went from 12-0 to 16-12. And I was like, Tony, what's going on? And I tuned back in for the fourth quarter, and you all definitely did squeak it by there. It definitely got a little dicey, especially there at the end. What was Summerall thinking? I don't understand the decision. If you didn't see the game, Tulane has the ball inside the 10-yard line. All they need to do is take a knee, center of the field, call a timeout, kick a field goal as time expires to win. But they elect to throw a touchdown pass with 35 seconds left, and it gave ECU a chance to get into a scoring position to tie after, like you mentioned, back-to-back penalties on pass interference on Tulane, which put the ball at the 40, and they gave them a Hail Mary chance that they almost converted. I mean, I don't understand that choice, especially when you have someone like Patrick Durkin, who's been perfect on the year, and you don't decide to kick the field goal.
I think just about everyone is like, what are we doing here? I mean, John Summerall is a great coach, and he's established that, but I want to know what was going through his head on that one, because, like you said, ECU had 0 timeouts. You're inside their 10. All you have to do is run one more play, and Tulane had 2 timeouts left, so they very much could have afforded to, maybe try to run one up the gut, and if they let you score, go down on the 1 or something like that. Just go down, let that clock drain. They don't have any timeouts, and it was shown when we threw that touchdown. ECU let them score because they know we're guaranteeing we're getting the ball back here. So it made 0 sense because it was like a play action bootleg, I think, where faked it to the left and ran out a bootleg to the right and threw it to the running back, and it just wasn't. Very confusing. Even the commentators are like, what are we doing here? They have no timeouts. It gave me flashbacks of the Miami game a couple of years ago.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
All they had to do was knee the ball out, and instead they run it, turnover, they lose the game. I was getting a little squeaky bum time there. So definitely not how you like to end it, but nonetheless, got the win. It is what it is. Take it, and you run with it. You don't have to look back on it anymore and move on to the next one because it's not going to get any easier in the American.
No, American is a dogfight this year. Tulane had to have this one to stay in the hunt with teams like North Texas, USF, all competing there at the top, and you also have Navy as well. So, bunch of teams.
Memphis.
And Memphis, of course, only bowl eligible team right now. Bunch of teams at the top of the American right now. So Tulane could not afford to slip up, and unfortunately for the ECU, this is probably going to be the nail in the coffin for them to win the conference. Now sitting at 3-3. Just going to be an uphill climb with all these other really good teams within the American.
And it's not just ECU is a great team. I mean, Summerall had said it earlier in the week that this was one of the tougher teams that we had on the schedule, and I agree. They're a great team, so they could absolutely shake things up in the American by playing spoiler for some of these other teams if they play them. I don't know how many of them they actually play, but I'm sure there's one or two in there of like a Memphis or a Navy or something like that. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Like I said, I'll take the win any day over a loss, of course, and just keep going with it. And, of course, roll MF Wave.
Great win for you guys. Obviously, a Tulane loss might have been good for JMU, but nevertheless, JMU's got to take care of their own business. But jumping into some storylines to talk about this week, want to kick things off with some NCAA transfer portal updates. If you've been following us, we've talked about how the NCAA has been proposing to move to a 15-day winter portal window, and that has officially been approved, and they're moving forward with that one from January 2nd to the 16th for the FBS and FCS, which this means it'll open right after the quarterfinal playoff games take place, allowing for undergraduates and graduate transfers to move outside just within one designated area or window instead of throughout the season and at a spring window as well. Teams that do compete past the quarterfinals, they are going to get an extension till after the Natty with an additional 5-day window, so they will still have an opportunity to transfer.
I love this. I think it's a step in the right direction for the sport to kind of almost put a cap on the whole portal sort of thing where it seemed like it was a little bit out of control at some points. But I like it. I think it's something that's going to help a lot. They also approved a change for players on teams who have a head coaching change, aka get fired or whatnot, to a 15-day window to enter the portal beginning 5 days after the coaching change. So it's half the length of the previous one where it was 30 days. And then, they will only be able to transfer once a new coach is announced. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on.
That's the big thing with this one. So I love the initial rule with one 15-day window. I am a fan of that one. I think it keeps things a little bit cleaner, more organized. I'm not sure how I feel about this change to when coaches are fired or leave. Previously, it was as soon as a coach is relieved of duties, fires, steps down, players have 30 days to enter the portal from that day where the coach is gone. Now it being after a new coach is brought on, these players will have to stay technically with that program until a new one's hired at the end of the year, which then they'll have that new 15-day window to enter, and of course the new January exclusive window. Obviously, even when you transfer, you're not going to play for your new team that season, but I just don't understand why you'd limit players where they have to wait for a new coach to get hired.
It's definitely one of those weird things that I could see, in the future, sometime soon, hopefully, they could just be like, this wasn't a great change, especially because, new coaches aren't getting hired until the end of the season anyway. So they're going to have that interim or the OC or the DC step up for the rest of the season, and they're just going to have to ride with it. And like you said, it's just kind of weird. And, I know with at least the UCLA and Tech and Arkansas, I don't think many players have had entered the portal.
They are grandfathered in. I do know that. So those players still have that 30-day window, but moving forward from the day of the ruling is when it changes.
Yes, I know that those players the coaches that were already relieved and whatnot still had that 30-day window. So I think they still have a couple of days, I want to say. But I don't think many of them transfer anyway. I know a big thing that UCLA quarterback Nico Lama, I'm not going to say his name. He had said after they had, before the Penn State game, I believe, or after the Penn State game, that he was saying that he told people, if you don't want to be here, leave. You can. So, if you don't want to be here, just go ahead and leave. And I don't think many of them have left. So, I mean, props to them for kind of sticking it out, especially those two programs those three programs in Tech, UCLA, and Arkansas.
Definitely good for them to keep those players together. We'll see how many end up transferring when the new regime comes in. As usual, there's usually a lot of turnover in this era of college football. But something else that's changing with this era is with the same convention is now NCAA players are going to be allowed to gamble, but only on professional sports moving forward. This is something that has been proposed and approved by the NCAA, but now needs to be approved by all three NCAA divisions, Division 1s, 2, and 3. So, but previously they weren't able to gamble at all, but now they're allowing them to bet on professional sports. Is this going to escalate into stuff that's going to raise more red flags than provide sanctuary? I'm not sure. As long as it's not on college games, I think they're good.
And the issue I have with it is, how do you keep track? I mean, what's to say someone, doesn't do something that finds a way around and whatnot? Like, I know on most, betting platforms, you have to provide some form of, like, identification, like a social or whatever it is. But, like, I'm sure there's a workaround somewhere for somehow, especially with these big name athletes being able to, they have the world at their feet, basically. So it's going to be one of those things we'll have to keep an eye on. I mean, if they're itching that bad to bet on games, I don't know why. I mean, I don't know. This really hasn't been an issue, I think, for prior, things and stuff with players. And I know a funny, a meme that'll die out now is when a player does, or fans don't like a player, they can't, create an account with the player's name. And, the school email address and stuff, those are always funny. But I guess that's gone now because they're going to be allowed to bet. Yeah. So it'll be something to keep an eye on for sure. Because, I mean, with the amount of money that they're getting, maybe they just want to throw a couple bands around and just like, hey, give me Cleveland Browns money line against the Steelers this weekend.
All right. I don't know if I love that one, but, we'll see what happens. No, but I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but I guess, it's out of our hands. I think, I don't know how they'll track it, but as long as they're not betting on college games, I already know this is going to cause a lot of problems with people not truly understanding the rule, but those bridges will be crossed once they are built. So, got to live with the decisions. Someone that's still living with a decision is Bill Belichick and UNC. No, we covered it in our rankings video earlier this week. If you want to learn more, check that out. I highly recommend it. But UNC and Bill Belichick, his tenure there has been strenuous to say the least. And this is never good when parties have to do this, but UNC and Bill released a joint statement expressing their commitment and, belief in each other and the commitment they have to making the program successful. I think when you have to do that, that's not really a good sign that, things are going smoothly.
It does not look good down in Chapel Hill for them right now. I mean, like you said it, the fact that you feel you have to put out a statement from UNC and their athletic director, I believe, and Bill Belichick himself, two separate statements on the same thing, just screams red flag. I mean, it's not a good look. It goes to show that things are not sailing well over there, and it just seems like an exit is inevitable. I know that the guy who broke the initial story about a possible exit was also one of the guys that had first initially reported that he was going to UNC. So I trust this guy with his stories, at least related to this. It seems like he's really got it down on the inside source there, and if he can find a way out, I wouldn't be surprised. I know the rumor was that he was potentially going to buy himself out And
he probably can. He's made plenty of money.
It was only from the number that I saw is that it was like $1 million or something.
Oh, that's
it
not
actually
as
wasn't
much
a
as
lot.
I thought it would. You know,
Yeah,
I think if I remember
more.
right, if the sooner he left, the smaller the buyout was. It was kind of an exponential sort of thing.
Yeah.
I could be completely bullshitting that.
I mean, at this rate, it's kind of just playing it by ear with everybody. So we won't know until it actually happens, and if it does happen at the end of the day. But it is what it is. I don't know if let's see if they can make it through this season at least, and see what the off season looks like, and if they decide to cut their loose ends and just call it quits right then and there.
Be devastating for that UNC program who. I mean, you saw them turn out for that TCU game, first game of the year, and they were excited. And now it's kind of dead on arrival. We mentioned this last week, or I should say earlier this week. I don't think I'm out. I don't think Belichick is completely done. Obviously, there's too many distractions right now, but I don't want to just write him off and say it's completely over for him. Dude's one of the best football coaches of all time. I'd like to see him turn it around. Just right now, things aren't looking great.
The question rises, is he a Brady merchant? I mean, hasn't looked great without Brady. And, he had one good season with Mac Jones, but I don't know. He's still a great coach nonetheless. I hope if he goes anywhere, he stays in college because I don't want him to break down Shula's record. So... So it is what it is. I think I'm with you where I'm not going to write him off just yet. It's year one. It's really hard to have a massive turnaround, especially in college nowadays with the roster turnover. But I'm not writing him off just yet. I think with due time they'll be fine.
And speaking of people writing others off, The Atlantic is officially writing off Arch Manning as the first flop of college football, which to me is just such an asinine headline and so stereotypical of the media creating a story just to run with it however they want. They were some of the people that were building him up to be a Heisman favorite, a hopeful, a hero in the eyes of many. When, in his defense, he hadn't had a chance to prove himself to be this great player that many people think he can be, and he definitely has a lot of talent, but they build him up to be this, and, I think he's underperformed according to this narrative they had built around him, and now they're going to call him a flop, and the season's halfway over. I think that is just such a headline grab that's fishing for clicks. It really comes down to that.
It's absurd nonetheless. I mean... the media always plays into these narratives, and they're the first ones to immediately, do a 90-degree or 180 turn on it and be like, well, actually, the dude sucks. We're going to build him up all season, all preseason, all season, and be like, oh, he can still bounce back. And then the moment where everybody's turning on them, they're like, yeah, exactly. We said that. Like, it was going to be bad. And it's ridiculous nonetheless. Like, I at this point I feel for the kid where he's got these massive expectations when this is his first time truly touching the
only
field.
way he can live up to the expectations is if he wins the Heisman and the Natty, which is an absurd expectation for a guy making his first season as a full-time starter. It's just the pressure put on him. I do feel bad for him. I'm sure he's got a good support team, but the media to build up a narrative and then turn on him before the season's even over, I find it very unsurprising, unfortunately. It
is very unsurprising, and it's very unfortunate. I mean, purely because of his last name, the dude had sky-high expectations, and understandably, with that family around him and the legends around him, it's like, if he's going to play football, he should be pretty damn good at it. But it's very common where you see these ex-players kids come in and they just can't live up to the hype because it's just too much. But he's very much got a chance to, I don't even want to say redeem himself.
I'm not writing him off. I still
absolutely
think he's got
not.
a lot of talent.
Yeah, and I'm hoping he makes the right decision and comes back for another year.
I think he will.
I don't think he can make that jump. I don't think he should make that jump to the pro level yet, because it's very clear that there's still some stuff that needs to be worked out. But I'm with you. I'm not going to write him off. I think he's got plenty of time and plenty of talent to get it over. And who knows, maybe there's always a possibility in a change of scenery as well. That could be the right thing. I mean, look at Carson Beck. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see with him. I mean, if he can finish the season strong, he could very much have a shot to, be
a lot
like,
of
all right,
football left
here.
to be played.
Yeah, very much a lot of football. So
with plenty of football left to be played, I say we jump into the Heisman odds, as always brought to you by MGM Sportsbook. The top 4 this week actually has not changed, but their odds have improved. Dante Moore is still the favorite at plus 500, which is now the highest odds of the season for any one player. Carson Beck is sitting at second, plus 600. Jeremiah Smith is at plus 800. And Ty Simpson also at plus 800 for Alabama. So these 4 are starting to pull away as the 4 odds-on favorite, from 4 of the best teams right now in college football. Ty Simpson's been playing really well, along with Dante Moore and Carson Beck. And I love seeing a skill position guy in the top of the rankings with Jeremiah Smith.
It's always fun seeing skill position, even though he's at Ohio State, whatever. Maybe a little biased there. But he's nonetheless, he's a generational talent in Jeremiah Smith, so it'll be something to watch out for. But a couple other players to watch out for is our good old buddy John Mateer is making his way back up there with the rumors that he could play this weekend, which is absurd nonetheless. I think
be a quick turnaround.
A very quick turnaround for someone who's had surgery on his I believe it was his thumb and his throwing hand. It might have not been his throwing hand. Whatever it was. Surgery on a thumb, nonetheless, when in a sport where you have to have both hands on the ball in the quarterback position, and even with handoffs and stuff, it's not easy. So I hope he doesn't rush back, because he is a great. He's playing great this season. So I think rushing back, from an injury like that could very much hurt him even more. But, if he feels he's ready and the coaching staff feels he's ready, by all means, go out there and do it, because he's got a great game this weekend.
Hard not to want to go and play in that huge rivalry game.
Yeah, I mean, it's, potentially a last one for him if he decides to, declare. But, it's one of those games you circle and you're like, I got to play this game. So we'll have to wait and see. But another player to watch out for is Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback. He's currently sitting at plus 1,300, but could very much jump up in those rankings if they were to somehow find a way to beat Oregon this weekend.
That should be a great game, I think, over in Eugene. So I could see him jumping up a huge amount if they can pull off this big win against Oregon. So definitely a lot of things to be looking at. And with John Mateer, he had become the odds-on favorite the day before he was announced with that surgery. I believe he was at plus 650 or plus 750 as the Heisman favorite at that point in time. So has a great chance to get back in the spotlight this week with a classic rivalry game against Texas. But we'll see if he ends up playing. Right now, I believe he's still questionable, so could be just something on the scouting report to throw off Texas, and they're keeping him out a week, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, we're just going to have to wait and see. As like I said, with the same with our rankings, same with the Heisman stuff, it changes week by week. I could even see Mendoza jumping up, even if they lose. If he has a good game, he could very much still jump up, because at the end of the day, the Heisman comes down to the individual. Obviously, team success is always going to be taken into consideration, but
nothing
it comes
helps
down
like
to the
a good
individual.
lesson, though.
Absolutely, love some quality lessons. So we're just going to jump right into a little mini preview of some of the games this weekend, starting off with UMass traveling to Kent State in a game where both teams are looking for their first FBS win in 16 and 26 games, respectively, for each other. This is just like this is the stoppable force meets the movable object. So
these are two teams who have taken a lot of lessons over the last few years.
So we're gonna have to see which one can eke it out and finally get that win. Also, we got Pitt is taking on FSU with their freshman quarterback getting the start, Mason Heinzstel. I'm sorry, probably totally butchered
He played
that.
well last week, though, so credit to Mason.
He did, absolutely. Yes, he did play very well last week. So that'll be definitely a game to watch with FSU still kind of lingering on their losses. So, and then another one here, 23. Of course, these are our rankings that we go off of. 23, Cincinnati is playing UCF at home after their big upset last week.
And NC State's going to look to be upsetting Notre Dame when they travel to South Bend. Be a huge game for NC State if they can get this win over Notre Dame, and I think that would be about the nail in the coffin of Notre Dame's football playoff hopes. Should be an interesting game. I think NC State's still flying under the radar and are capable of beating a team like Notre Dame. And then we're going to have Kansas heading to number 7 Texas Tech for a Big 12 showdown. Kansas is 4-2, but quality lessons under their belt. They are not a team to look over for Texas Tech. And then Nebraska and Maryland are going to be battling it out in a huge game for the Big Ten. Both of these are one-loss teams. Could be a real turning point for both of those seasons if whoever can come out of this will be on the right side of the line when trying to make that Big 10 championship game.
Absolutely. I mean, Maryland, you could argue that this is a bounce back game for them where, coming off of that tight loss and almost backbreaking loss to Washington. So they definitely need this one under their belt if they want to right the ship. But another bounce back game we're going to point out here is Houston, seeing if they can bounce back here on the road against Oklahoma State. They had a close one with Texas Tech to start, and then Texas Tech just kind of ran away with it there at the end. I mean, albeit they are one of the better teams in the country right now, but Texas is still very much a good team in my book, so be on the lookout for them to bounce back.
I think they'll get the job done. Oklahoma State is reeling. And then Iowa State's going to be taking on Colorado after that really disappointing loss against Cincinnati on the road. So a chance for Iowa State to take on Dion, get right, find out if they can still be a good team inside of the Big 12. And then, as we had mentioned, little rivalry game, the Red River rivalry, Oklahoma taking on Texas, number 8 Oklahoma for us. Really in a reversal of where people thought these teams would be at this point in the season. Texas preseason number 1. Oklahoma ranked in the AP but didn't even get ranked in the coaches poll, now in the top 10 everywhere. So a huge reversal. It's going to be a big one. If Oklahoma can get Mateer back, that will be a huge boost for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Oklahoma, it doesn't matter where their seasons are at. Red River rivalry, both teams, they got this circled on the calendar. It's absurd to me that this is played in the middle of the season. I would love it to be, a rivalry week, but it is what it is, in today's day and age. But nonetheless, they get to play each other. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a classic. I would almost possibly lump this into my upset watch out. Possibly,
I would say Texas that meter's leaning.
I'm not going to sit here and say Texas is going to win, but I think even if John Mateer comes back, it's going to be a very tight game. I still think Texas's defense is still really good. It's just a matter if that offense can get clicking, and that's been the issue all season. So we'll have to see if they can do it, or if Oklahoma can just keep riding the high that they're on, and just absolutely put a stamp on this rivalry.
Be a huge statement win for Oklahoma, and just like Oklahoma, my JMU Dukes are looking for a statement win at the whiteout game at home this weekend against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, Saturday 12 p.m. in Harrisonburg. JMU, our offense looked dead last week, while our defense is still looking like one of the best in the country. So really need to see our offense get going, especially as we prepare to take on ODU in a couple weeks, which is why this game is all that more important. It is trap game written all over it. We cannot be overlooking Louisiana, who's coming off a bye the week before. They hang 54 points up on the board. they're a very dangerous team that can beat us. If we played like we did against Georgia State, it's going to be almost impossible to beat the Cajuns. They have to figure out their identity when it comes to throwing the ball. They just haven't been able to do it. They got to lean on that defense like they have been, but if JMU can't get this passing game going with AB3, it might be a long game. So really looking forward to getting some play action involved, as we have a great running game, and I think we work well off the PA. So hoping that comes together. Of course, I'm going to be riding with the Dukes, so I think we'll get this one done. I think the crowd there is going to be an electric, another sold-out crowd for JMU. The whiteout game's always great. If you want to go see it, look at the Coastal game. That was a Thursday last week with a sold-out whiteout crowd. Or not last week, last year on a Thursday. So always a great time.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's really going to come down to JMU's offense. As we saw last week, it was very lackluster. If it wasn't for you guys having one of the best defenses in the nation, you could probably have you probably could chalk up a couple other losses, because the defense has definitely done its job this year. Now it's up to the offense to keep pace. So if the offense can keep pace and they can get it going, definitely have to keep an eye out for them, and definitely still have that ODU JMU game circled on the calendar if JMU can keep up. So we're going to jump right into our must-watch games of the week here to start off with an absolute banger on Friday night with USF taking on North Texas. Both teams ranked in the Dummies poll, USF being 17, North Texas being 19. They take each other on tomorrow, Friday at 7:30. This, to me, has Game of the Week written all over it.
This is a massive American showdown. I think this game, whoever comes out of this, will be one of the teams inside of the conference championship game come end of the season. Two really fun teams. The first ever home sellout for North Texas with USF coming to the board. It's going to be a huge game for the Dummies ranking specifically. I think the loser of this game has a chance to fall out completely, while the winner could take a huge jump. Potentially, pushing back against Memphis, who's the lead there for the American. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a fun game with two really good teams showcasing why Friday Night Lights is always a great time.
I'm looking forward to it just because, as a Tulane fan, I love to see these conference games and how it shelves out. And I'm with you here where I think the winner of this could absolutely decide which of the two could end up in the conference title game. So it's going to be massive regardless. Got to keep an eye on both teams' quarterbacks. Of course, Byron Brown still playing phenomenal this season, and of course his dual threat ability. And then North Texas QB Drew Mestmaker, I believe I'm saying that right. Mm-hmm. I'm terrible with names tonight, I guess. But he's got to keep protecting the ball, got to keep it in North Texas hands at all times. Again, I'm going to hark on this every single time. Turnovers are going to absolutely decide this game. I think both teams have done a pretty decent job of keeping the ball when they're supposed to. So it's going to come down, especially being on the road with USF and a first ever sellout crowd, which is nuts in my opinion for North Texas. But, they haven't really been anything special the past however many years. I mean, this is their first, I guess, true, really good season where they're making all sorts of efforts to make sure that it is sold out with North Texas fans. Their athletic directors are going out. They're doing deals with stuff. Buy one ticket, get one free. They're canceling all things so that everybody is there, and I love it. We love to see that with these small G5 teams, and we like to see the energy there. So I'm looking forward to it. So with all that, who you got?
Well, I think this is a game where we're going to find out if North Texas is legit, if they are for real. I think that crowd's going to be rocking for them. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. With that being said, I don't think they are quite in the same league as USF yet. They're deserving of their ranking. I think USF in the last few years has just played some bigger ball, played some better ball, and I think that they're the better team here, and I think they're going to come out on top and unfortunately spoil the night of North Texas's first sellout Friday. I think USF's going to get it done 31-17.
Yeah, I can respect it. I'm kind of, I'm a little with you there. Where I think even this season alone, USF has obviously played the tougher competition. Playing Boise State to open up, winning at Florida, and then obviously losing to the best team in the country in Miami. Getting at least getting that quality lesson under the belt against the best team in the country. As much, I think I'm gonna have to go opposite of you here, man.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna ride with North Texas. I mean, I think I'm a little bit biased just because that's my team in our dynasty right now, and I won the Natty with them. So, I'm a little bit biased, but nonetheless, I think that the crowd is absolutely going to help, and they're going to go in there at home, defend their home turf, and really prove that they are a legit team this year. And I think it's all going to stem from their quarterback. Since he is playing as lights out as he has all season. But I see them getting it done. It's definitely going to be a close one. I might lean towards the 27-24.
I think it really could go either way. It's going to be a good game. So I'm excited to see this one. I'll definitely be tuning in tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
And then Saturday night, Arizona State is going to be traveling to Utah, 10:15 Eastern. This is going to be an interesting game. Reports came out today that ASU quarterback Sam Leavitt has been downgraded to doubtful with an undisclosed injury. Tony, what do you have for us on this?
That was a bombshell. I mean, I was watching the Tulane game. Commercial break pops up. I hop on Twitter really quick to see what the fans are talking about, and boom, I see the report. Sam Leavitt downgraded to doubtful. He was at probable. And I was just like, oh my God, we got to talk about this. I texted you, we got it situated, but I think this absolutely throws a wrench in ASU's plan. They were probably planning all week for him to be the starter, unless they didn't disclose it, which at the end of the day is technically illegal. But there's plenty of workarounds with it. I've seen plenty of former athletes say that they've played with injuries that aren't disclosed before, and they find a way around it. But nonetheless, if it's been disclosed at this point, at least that he has an injury, not what the injury is, it's enough to cause that doubt. That's why he's been downgraded. I think this is nuts for it to be this late into the week for something like this to happen.
Especially coming off a bye week.
Yes, coming off of a bye, and just like, what were they doing during that bye, or what was he doing during the bye for something like this to happen? I mean, it just kind of blows my mind.
My thought is they've kept it as probable because it wasn't a big deal, and then all of a sudden it did. But this is a big game for the Big 12. The Big 12 is really wide open. We talked about it in the recap episode. There's a lot of good teams at the top of the Big 12, including Arizona State and Utah. And I think the winner of this game, much like the last game that we talked about, is going to be on the right side of the conference debate. And Utah really can't afford a second conference loss, especially losing at home again. It cannot be overstated how big of a loss this is for Arizona State.
It could be what finishes off their season, honestly. I mean, getting a loss in the conference and where the AP is obviously already not favoring them, and then we saw last year the committee not favoring the Big 12 at all. So, getting one loss in this conference could absolutely derail the season, and that would turn ASU into a 2-loss team, which would make it even harder. So I think this is a must-win for both of them to have any sort of aspirations of being able to go far and then into the postseason. So it's going to be one to keep out and keep watch for.
I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit on every game's a must-win, but I think it's more of a must-win for Utah because they can't get that second conference loss. Arizona State has yet to lose in the Big 12. Obviously, this would be a hard one to swallow if they lost, but they showed last year, even with 2 losses, that they could get in. So I think even if they lose this one, other dominoes can fall, and with 1 loss, they make the conference championship game. But I'm not going to say you're totally wrong there. You don't want to lose this game, especially to a team like Utah that's going to be pushing you. And the winner of this game most likely is probably going to start receiving votes and might end up in the rankings for the dummies after this week.
It's very much a possibility. I know ASU is definitely one of those teams that's right there for me.
I tried to rank them the last 2 weeks and just couldn't do it because of how the dominoes fell. So I'll tell you what, they're pretty damn close.
It's tough, but I mean, more or less, it is what it is. You're going to have to ride with it. I mean, they've obviously known that something is wrong with Levitt, so hopefully they have been, maybe plugging in the backup in Jeff Sims, who's sixth year. And so I'm hoping that it can still be a good game there. But just going to jump right in here. I think Utah's probably going to get it done. I think they, I'm with you in the sense of they're definitely going to need it quite a bit more than ASU, but they're definitely, with this news coming out, I think that gives them a big boost, honestly, knowing that one of the better quarterbacks in the nation is not going to be playing more than likely. So I think it helps them a little bit, and then obviously ASU being the road team there is just going to make it that much harder. And Utah always has a good crowd, so I think I'm going to take Utah.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I was definitely going to rock with Arizona State before we read that Sam Levitt news. I think now Utah's going to get it done at home. That crowd's going to be too much. That place is going to be jumping. It's unfortunate for Arizona State, but I think they're a good team, and they're still going to be in important conversations the rest of the season. Unfortunate about Levitt, though.
Absolutely. They're going to be big. If they lose this, they're going to be big Utah fans, with Utah getting a shot at BYU soon here. So it's going to be tough for ASU. With one loss team in this conference is going to be very tough because there's a lot of good teams right now. Like you said, it's wide open. So it's going to be tough regardless. Obviously, if Utah does end up losing, it's going to destroy their season. But it'll be even tougher for ASU.
No
one
pressure.
loss is hard enough. But yeah, no, zero pressure. Jeff Sims, you got to just jump in there and make sure your season doesn't end. But nonetheless, we'll move on to the next one here with number 3, Ohio State traveling to Illinois Saturday at 12, I believe, for I think Big Noon is there.
I believe you're right now, but now, I've been wrong on a lot of that kind of stuff before, so I'm not going to swear to it.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume Big Noon kickoff is there because they're usually at the game that kicks off at noon. So that's the whole name. But yeah, Ohio State, number 3, traveling to Illinois, who is very much on the cusp of getting ranged, at least in the dummy rankings.
They are ranked in the AP 17th, so big disparity there. Illinois received a couple votes last week, just didn't, some other teams jumped up ahead of them, didn't receive a vote this week by the dummies, but definitely in that top 30 range for this group. Ohio State is the overwhelming favorite. They do have to travel to Illinois for this one, and I'm curious to see if we're going to see the Illinois that played Indiana and got curb stomped, or if they're going to play like that team that beat USC and fought to the very end. I think OSU deserves to be the big favorite here. Illinois is a very good team, though. I do think Ohio State is just defensively going to be bringing too much pressure, and I don't just mean off of blitzes, just their defensive presence might be a little bit much for the Fighting Illini here.
It's going to be a rough one no matter what. I mean, OSU, obviously one of the better teams in the nation. They're, you could almost say, flying under the radar in some sense with, Miami and Oregon getting a lot of the talk. And OSU's just kind of there. I mean, I know in the AP they're still 1, but a lot of the talk now is, do they deserve it? I know a lot more people have been saying that Miami does deserve it more than OSU, and I'm one of those people. I absolutely think that
Miami, our rankings reflect that.
Yeah, I absolutely think Miami deserves it over them, but it is what it is. AP, we all know, is pretty stupid. But yeah, it's not too surprising that OSU is the overwhelming favorite here. I'm with you here in Indiana, or not Indiana, Illinois. Are they going to show up? Unlike what they did at Indiana, it helps that they're at home, so that'll be big for them. Obviously, got to look out for Julian Sayin. He has been playing damn good since the start of the season, has just slowly improved with each week that's gone by, and that's possibly why we're seeing Jeremiah Smith in this Heisman talk now. with him chucking him the ball. So you could possibly see him pop up in there as well at some point. But it is what it is. It's going to be a good one. Got to keep an eye out, of course, for Illinois quarterback Luke Altmaier, who has also been playing very good. He's 6th in passing yards right now with 0 interceptions, which is also very good, especially this deep into the season.
He has been playing really well, so Illinois is going to need to lean on him to make good defenses in the face of this mighty Ohio State defense. I think this has a chance to be a really good game, and Illinois might be able to surprise them in the first half. But, spoiler alert, I am going to rock with the Buckeyes on this one. As much as I love the upset, I do think Ohio State's going to get this one done. I hope Illinois can pull it away, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I have to go with Ohio State here, as much as it pains me, because I'm a big Ohio State hater. I just don't think that the Illinois game against Indiana showed me all I needed to see, honestly, about them. Albeit, on the road in a tough environment in Indiana, but nonetheless, still, if you're getting killed by 53 by Indiana, who knows what it could be for Ohio State. So I'm going to have to go Ohio State, multiple scores.
I think it might get out of hand. So I agree with you on that one. Looking at our next game here, another hated Big Ten team, number 22 Michigan, traveling to USC towards 7:30 on Saturday. USC is actually opening up as a slight favorite in this one. They've been in and out of the rankings for the AP and us for the Dummies. They're a very good team, and this is a big game as both of these teams are going to be looking to keep pace with the 3 best in the Big Ten, being Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon, like we've mentioned. So, really important game here. So, I'm a little surprised to see USC open as a favorite, but it's essentially a pick'em game.
Yeah, it's definitely... I'm with you. It's a little weird to see USC open up as the favorite. It could be, with the recent, I guess, complaint wave of the traveling in the Big Ten, even though they did it to themselves.
Yeah.
Going to USC is never an easy thing. It's with Michigan or any team that's, classic Big Ten, having to travel all the way to the West Coast is never easy. It is still a little surprising. I thought Michigan would probably be slightly favored by, maybe 2.5 or something like that, maybe 3. But it's does Vegas know something that we don't? Possibly. They seem to do that quite a bit. But big thing with this one is, can USC make Bryce Underwood uncomfortable, make him look like the true freshman that he is? Even though he hasn't been playing like it, he's been playing pretty good for him, making that jump and going straight in and stealing that starting spot.
I think that's the key to the game. USC wants to make Bryce Underwood win this game for Michigan. And that is not a discredit to Bryce. He has played well, like you've mentioned. He has been standing in the face of a lot of pressure and has been living up to a lot of the excitement around him. So I do think he has a shot to do something special here, but that's going to be the key defensively for USC. I think this one has a chance to potentially shape up into a game of the week sort of scenario, where both of these teams are, I think, at similar levels.
Absolutely. I think it's going to come down to, again, the defense, which defense can show up, possibly create that turnover and swing the momentum in their favor early into the game. Look out for Michigan to start quick. If they can get that quick play or quick big play, possibly to open up the game, I think that would favor them a little more. So with all that being said, who you got?
This is a tough one for me. Like I said, I think both of these teams are fairly even in skill level. I think that Big Ten travel schedule, though, is going to get Michigan here. I think another Great Lakes team is going to get caught by that California coast, and I think USC is going to take this one in a really close game that lets them really jump back into the rankings and keep pace with the top teams in the Big Ten. Think they're going to get this one done. somewhere around 37 to 32, and somewhere in that range. Maybe a little scoregami action for us.
We love our scoregamis. They're great. But I like where your head's at. I like your reasoning and whatnot. I'm going to have to go opposite here.
Oh, man.
I think Michigan has enough to get it done on the road. I think it helps them a little bit that it is 7:30 Eastern time at least. It's not, that early game like Penn State had to deal with last week at UCLA. So I think that helps them just in the slightest with some of the time issues and the travel and whatnot. So I think that'll help. I think that they'll get it going. Like I said, I think if they can get that big play early, possibly get a quick score or a good stop to start the game, it can swing things in their favor. And I still think it's going to be a close game. USC is still a great team in my book. Again, one of those teams kind of just right outside. And a win like this would absolutely throw them up there and propel them forward. But I think I'll take Michigan and possibly, I could say a 34-31 sort of sense. Definitely a closer one.
I like your rationale there. I think you're wrong, but I like where your thoughts are at. Looking at our next game here, 12 BYU is traveling to the desert to take on Arizona Saturday at 8 p.m. And what I think is a huge trap game for BYU here as they look to face Utah next week in the Holy War, another rivalry game I can't believe is in the middle of the season. But Arizona's sneaky good, and this could cause real problems for BYU if they're really looking ahead to that big game against Utah.
The Storm and Mormons are going to have some trouble with the Wildcats because they are a damn good team. So it's going to be one to stop. I'm with you here. I think this has trap game written all over it. And really, I don't even know if it would be considered a trap game because Arizona's not a bad team. So it's something that they're 100% going to, not take or take too lightly or go into too lightly. They know, especially being on the road, you can never start too slow on the road or else you'll never be able to catch up. And Arizona has looked good this year, and definitely in waves and whatnot. They could absolutely shake up the Big 12 in every chance they get, because I know they have a pretty decent schedule where they play some of the top dogs. Arizona does. So it's going to be one to watch for sure, and I think it's going to be definitely look out for BYU to possibly slip up here.
I think it's a real possibility, and an Arizona win would be a huge shakeup to the Big 12 after Iowa State's loss last week to Cincinnati. I've mentioned it before. I think the Big 12 has a lot of really good teams that it's really a conference that is anyone's for the taking right now, and BYU is really looking to keep pace with Texas Tech here. A win would be huge, and if Arizona can get another win and get to 5-1, that is a massive position of power to be in for this Big 12 race, as they'll be in a good spot. If they can beat a lot of the tough teams on their schedule, they'd be in a real shot at finishing 10-2, 11-1, making that title game and being in that conversation. So this is a game that I think is going to be really interesting to play out. I think it's going to be an ugly game because of the state of how BYU is currently playing, and looking ahead to that Holy War, it just has one of those feelings to me. It's just going to, not that either team's going to play bad, it's just going to be one of those games that is a little spunky.
I could definitely see it being one of those kind of gritty, disgusting games. But I love when, I kind of like those games. They're more fun. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to keep our eye out with that one. But who you got out of this one?
I went back and forth on this one for a while. I am going to go with BYU on this one. I think they are a more complete team. I think that they play disciplined football, so I think that they're going to come in prepared to face on a really good Arizona team. I think that they're going to win probably by a possession, somewhere in that 30-28, 31-28 kind of range, maybe 35-28. It's going to be a good game, though. I do think it's going to be a little bit sloppy, but I think BYU is just the better team here.
I'm going to have to agree there. I think BYU comes in prepared. They know what they're dealing with. They know they got to get this win on the road because, like you said, they got to be able to keep up with Texas Tech right now. as fast as they're going. So I think they go on the road and they get it done.
I like when you can agree on stuff like this. It makes my job a whole lot easier on watching these games, so I don't have to just cheer against you and we can just cheer together. Looking at our next game here, number 10 Alabama travels to number 11 Missouri noon on Saturday, and what easily could be the game of the week with the one-loss Tide and undefeated Tigers. This is shaping up to be a prime spot for the winner to be in the SEC Conference Championship game.
It absolutely is, and this is the chance for Missouri to show that they are legit. They're not undefeated for no reason. They want to show that they can swing with the heavyweights of the SEC and prove that they belong in that conference title game and possibly the playoff. You never know. So it's definitely shaping up to be the game of the week, or one of the game of the weeks, because there's so many this week. It's going to be tough nonetheless. Alabama going to Missouri is definitely something to keep an eye out for. Can they create that environment that makes them uncomfortable? Can they make Ty Simpson uncomfortable with the way he is playing right now? Playing red hot, has easily turned into one of the better quarterbacks in the nation right now. So it's going to really come down to how they can contain him.
He is looking like a Heisman dark horse. He's been playing really good. And like you said, can Mizzou prove that they can play with the heavyweights of the SEC? And I'm curious from a Bama perspective can they keep their focus for this game? We saw last year their focus slip a few times throughout the season, which kept them out of the playoff. And this is an opportunity to get a win against an undefeated ranked team that can really boost them and prove that, hey, that first loss against FSU, that was a slip up. We are one of the teams to beat, if not the team to beat in the SEC. So Bama's going to need to come out and play with that same level of focus that they showed in that first half against Georgia.
Absolutely. I think they're going to need to come out quick and come out hot and just make it so that Missouri has to play catch up. I think that'll help Bama drastically in the game, where instead of playing from behind or in the closer aspect, you can keep that lead. You dictate the game and whatnot. Don't make Missouri throw the ball, because you want to keep it away from them. Make sure that they can't hand it off to their running back in Ahmad Hardy, who is leading the NCAA in rushing yards with 730. So they'll have to try and find a way to stop him down the gut and make sure that he cannot get the ball in his hands.
He has been a workhorse for Mizzou. I mean, has been really great this year. So if they can get the ball moving on the ground with Hardy, it is a tough offense to stop, even for a defense like Bama. So this is going to be a really good game, I think. I think both of these teams, as much as I want to hate on Alabama, I do think they're a really good team. They've proven that the last few weeks. Against a team that I like in Mizzou, who I was a little low on maybe at the start of the year, but has quickly climbed my rankings. This is going to shape up to be an all-time classic, I believe. With all that being said, who do you got, Tony?
I was wrong last week with Alabama. They got the job done against Vanderbilt, and I think they do it again. I think that they are playing just too good of football right now to let this one slip. I think, like I said, I think they start quick and they make Mizzou play from behind, and that causes them to make a mistake or two that just swings all the momentum in their favorite. To maybe get Alabama up 2 possessions pretty early in the game. So I think Ty Simpson's going to keep slinging, and they're just going to keep balling, and I think they go on the road and they get it done.
I can see where your head's at with that. Bama is looking like a more complete team week in and week out. And I'm going to have to agree with you. I am going to go with Bama. I picked them last week against Vanderbilt. I think they're getting hot right now. I still don't trust them completely, but I just don't trust Mizzou anymore. So I think you're right. I think Bama's going to jump out to a hot start here and make Mizzou play from behind, which is going to be a very difficult thing to do, as we've seen against Bama throughout the years. So I'm riding with Bama on this one too. I think it's going to be a quality lesson for Missouri, though.
Absolutely. I think they're undefeated right now. I mean, obviously a conference loss is always hard to take, but nonetheless, they can take it and they can still ride it and finish the season strong and still be in that contention for that title game slot. So we'll just have to wait and see, but could be very much be a quality lesson. And then heading into our last one here, I think is game of the week, has it written all over it, where a team is going to come out of here with a quality lesson. Indiana traveling to Oregon Saturday at 3:30. This is just a slinging of the powerhouses here.
This is going to be the game of the week. I agree with you. Indiana, Oregon, a couple of years ago, who would have thought, a classic Big Ten matchup? Oh my goodness, Indiana's in the top 10? No, this is almost out of a fairy tale. Indiana fans are still pinching themselves. Can Indiana prove, though, that they can beat the top-ranked teams? That has been the asterisk with Indiana since Cignetti has come over there. I think this is going to be a great chance for them to prove that they are one of the better teams in the country.
Absolutely. This is their shot. They had it last year when they played Ohio State, fell short. But this is their chance to solidify themselves this season for sure in everybody's eyes. There's no denying them if they go into Autzen and they get the job done. I know people have already been discrediting their win against Illinois, which to me is ridiculous because it's a
They'll
ranked win nonetheless.
They'll discredit it for Indiana, but that'll be used as a good win for Ohio State.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always what it's going to be, and even especially in the SEC, where like Mizzou, if they lose, it's going to be like, oh well, it's Alabama, whatever, and whatnot. And even if Alabama loses, it's like, oh well, it's the SEC, so it doesn't matter. But neither team can afford to lose this game, in my opinion, because it's just going to be used against them. More than it will be it's going to hurt them a lot more than it would be a lesson, in my opinion, in the eyes of everybody else. I don't think I'll punish the loser of this game a lot unless it's a blowout, because in the dummies it's R4 going against R2, so it's a top 5 matchup. It's always going to be a fun one. It's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks, in my opinion. 2 Heisman hopefuls here, and for Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. Who's going to sling the rock better than the other? It's gonna be who can play the more complete game, especially on the quarterback side. Look for them to use their legs, create those off-sync plays, extra plays, with both defenses looking to create havoc in that backfield and make the quarterback make a play. And I trust both of them. I think they're both great quarterbacks, and I think they can extend the plays very well and make that unscripted play. So it's going to be a tough one to watch here. I think for me, it's definitely going to come down to whoever's defense can stop the momentum on the offense first.
I agree. I think this is going to be a defensive game, and I think the winner of this controls their own destiny in the Big Ten. Neither of these teams play Ohio State, so if you want to think about it as a bracket, obviously there is no real bracket, but without having to play Ohio State, they're looking to be the team most likely going to be facing them in that conference championship game, and the winner of this game is going to be setting themselves up to do just that. As much as you think it's going to come down to the defense and the quarterbacks, I think it's going to come down to Cignetti and Lanning as coaches as well. It's going to be a very high-level game where you're going to see the true chess moves come out from both of these coaches as they look to play against each other the best they can, offensively and defensively.
Absolutely. I mean, these two of those, both of those coaches are one of the most brilliant minds in the game right now. It's going to come down to which one can unlock the other's counter, because they're going to counter each other all night. We know that. So it's definitely going to be a tough one on the sidelines, on the field, in between everything, from how the fans enter the stadium to how they leave. It's going to come down to every small thing for that game, and it's going to be rocking up in Eugene. So with all that being said, with this being our game of the week, who do you got?
Oh man, this is a tough one for Hunter here. I do not feel. I've been thinking about this game really for the last 2 weeks with it being circled on the schedule. College game days in town. Oregon's going to have a rocking crowd behind them. It is not an easy place to play. We've seen Indiana struggle at the Big House in these environments. So, it's really hard to say that Oregon's not going to come out on top. But I think Indiana's going to get it done. I think Cignetti gets the monkey off of his back here. I think that he proves that Indiana is a program to be reckoned with as long as he's there. And this is going to be start of a real shift in the power dynamic in the Big Ten for Indiana.
I got to respect it. I know you're going to have the slightest bit of bias being a Duke with Cignetti. And I love it. I love him as a coach. I think he's done wondrous things for Indiana. But I'm going with the Ducks. I think that they just have too much talent on both sides to match them. And I think it's going to be close. And it's really going to come down to the defenses, I think. But I think Oregon's going to have just enough to get it done, especially being at home, like we had said, where Indiana we've seen struggle on the road against these top dogs. And I think this might be another case of them struggling just a little bit. It could get to them the tiniest bit, and even that tiniest bit is going to help drastically. But I think Oregon gets it done in a close game. I will go with a possibly like a 31-27 sort of thing.
Well, I guess we're going to have to see who the real dummy is between the two of us. So if you want to see who comes out on top with our picks, make sure you tune into our review show that'll come out after this weekend. But let us know what you guys think about this week's slate of games, what upsets you think are going to happen, and who you think is going to shock the nation the most. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Dynasty Dumbies, or our personal accounts, Hunter_Shaw5 and CronyTony20. And we'll see you guys after the weekend.
Yep, see you after these great games.